The market is expecting somewhere between a 6 and 10% move.
Earnings season continues this week with more big moves ahead for two massive companies.
I talk to every firm on Wall Street, and we're getting their research, their information. We're getting orders that are trading in the market.
Larry Benedict with The Opportunistic Trader is sharing his decades of experience and connections.
You have the opportunity to make a lot of money.
Larry, so great to have you with us here for our last edition of MarketBeat in the Mountains. It's been a really big earnings season, and a lot of long-term investors are looking at all of the fundamentals coming out of these earnings reports. But today we want to talk about your specialty, Larry, and that is options. What are people who are day trading, who are looking at options? How do you look at earnings week?
First, thanks, Bridger, for having me. I appreciate it. So the beauty of options, and this is like sort of a misunderstanding out there in the marketplace that options are really risky, and it's almost the opposite of that. Options are a way to trade both in earnings and not in earnings to have defined risk. And that's something that a lot of people do not have when you're trading outright stocks. So what I mean by that is if we buy one option for a stock, you know how much money you spend, and that is the most you can lose. And that is the beauty of options. And they work especially well during earnings week because you can get leverage.
Yeah, what are you watching for earnings week? We just had a really big one this last week with Microsoft and Meta and Apple and all kinds of the big tech companies. What are you looking for with moves or whatever happens in those stocks that would make it a good options play?
We like to trade options that have right now the sector to really be in is technology, both AI and just general technology. They have the most volatility. So when we're trading options, we look for stocks that are going to have inherently larger moves based on perception of earnings. So for next week, there are two in particular that we're looking at right now.
And we are going to get right into these two companies that are primed for some options plays with earnings coming up this week and the different strategies that you would use for each of these different companies. You have so much great information to share. Thank you for sharing this with our viewers, Larry. This is your specialty. You do this every day. You've been in this market for 4 decades and are now working to coach and train new traders every single day. You can scan the QR code now or click the link in the description of this video to learn more about Larry's mentorship program. All right, Larry, let's get to that first stock on your list. And this one is a favorite of many investors on this channel.
Palantir, I have a deep knowledge of. I actually was an investor in Palantir before it went public. We had the ability to buy it in the pre-public market from employees. Employees were looking to sell stock. So we've been involved with Palantir since it's $2 a share. Now Palantir is $160 and one of the hottest stocks on Wall Street in AI and in, all kinds of government information, etc. And what I like now for earnings are, there's two different ways to play it. For people that want to keep it as simple as possible, we would recommend buying either a outright put or call, depending on your view on the stock. Our view is that we think the stock is going to continue to go higher as it's hitting record highs. So we like a trade of buying the 175 calls for this week's expiration. You would buy that, and that price is $3.39 right now. And you could have the ability to buy that. So that is a way to play it. Or if for whatever reason you may be bearish on the stock or thinking the stock may go lower here, I recommend buying a 140 put in Palantir. So that, is sort of the easiest way to play this. Upside play is buying that call, and the downside way to play it is to buy that put. And you will basically have that through the earnings, and you'll be able to hopefully be correct and sell that out after the earnings. But really, a more complicated way to play it, where I like as well, is something called an iron condor, which some of our viewers may not know what that is. But with my mentorship program, we walk you through all of that. We handhold you step by step and get you ready, to trade positions that we think make more sense, and a way for you to take money out of the market. So, what we would like to do in that particular position is sell the 170 calls in Palantir, buy the 175 calls, and then sell the 145 puts and buy the 140 puts, and you take in a net credit of $2.65 to do that trade, and you're protected up and down 8%. So as long as Palantir doesn't move over 8%, you're going to make money, and the most that you could lose is basically around 3 2 or $3. So it's a good way to take advantage of the non-movement. So the first two, we're looking for a move in a certain direction, either up or down, and then the next trade capitalizes on the fact that we're expecting not a huge move. So with options, it's almost like making an ice cream sundae. You may want sprinkles on it and I may not. So these are different strategies, and we gave you three, but they're different ways to predict or play the moves, with the most important thing out there, which is defined risk. We don't want to be in positions that we have undefined risk. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've stood on the floor during the stock market crash in 1987, traded through the dot-com boom and bust, and the '08 financial crisis, as well as COVID, etc. And the most important thing that I think people need to know out there is how not to lose money. Not only how to make money, but just how not to lose money. And that's what we do well at the Opportunistic Trader.
A lot of really good information and different strategies to use if you do want to explore using options on Palantir. I want to talk about the history of Palantir a little bit with earnings. What kind of moves do we normally see with Palantir? And I know this is a unique one because, once again, we're at a new all time high for this stock. It's just been on a huge bull run for the last few months. But what historically have we seen Palantir do during earnings week?
Over the history of Palantir as a public company, which hasn't been all that long, it's kind of new to the marketplace. But the beauty of options is options kind of tell you what to expect. So if you want to know what to expect in Palantir for this earnings, you put up, the puts and calls, they give you a price, and you can add that up to get the move on the stock. It may not happen, but the market is expecting somewhere between a 6 and 10% move for this earnings in particular. But every earnings is different. Each time is different. Over the history of Palantir, it's probably been anywhere from 10 to 15%, which is more than most stocks, because it's kind of like a meme stock darling that has probably every component that you know, everyone out there would want as a player. It touches on AI. It's got a lot of technology. It's doing a lot of data sourcing. So, this stock in particular is incredible for earnings. So we do expect a fairly large move in the stock, and it's looking between 8 and 10%.
I think what I want to know is what to watch for. What could make Palantir have a big move? Is it a blowout earnings? Is it a big beat? Is it a miss in some way? What are some of those things to watch for that could send the stock moving higher or lower than expected?
Well, all of the things you just touched on potentially could work, positively or negatively. The one thing that I say that makes me a little bit more cautious than I would be in general because I do think they're going to beat the numbers, and I do think that they're going to have strong growth, big revenue, etc. But the market has gone up so much in this stock. It's gone literally up over 100 and something percent for the year. So I think we at the opportunistic trader are looking at guidance going forward, how the company guides moving forward, what the prospects look like outside of government contracts, how much regular business they're getting outside of government contracts is important to look at. I think it's really important. And we think, again, the numbers are going to be good. Guidance is going to be way more important. And the numbers really have to beat. So I would be a little bit cautious on a blowout earnings to the upside and a continuation of this move, although the stock is very strong.
Yeah, really good info and good thoughts on Palantir. It's a stock we follow all the time on this channel. Lots of Palantir investors out there, both long term and short term. So thank you for diving into this one. Let's get to that second company. This is also a really interesting stock that's had a lot of moves this year already.
The second stock that has earnings this week that we're looking at is Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, another favorite for people out there. A chip company, a mini NVIDIA. I'm sure everyone on your channel is following NVIDIA. It's the hottest stock with a almost $5 trillion market cap. But AMD has done incredibly well over the last bunch of years. Backing up in AMD, a little story. AMD in the late 90s, early 2000s, I had a hedge fund and we had a lot of assets under management, but AMD was a $1 stock. Okay. And now the stock is $179, actually down from its high. It's traded um, better, but down off its high. And we like the name at the opportunistic trader. We see potential upside. We're looking at buying a call, and we like the 200 calls, looking for an earnings upside surprise potentially. The beauty of that, which we touched on a little bit earlier, is what I like about options is we have defined risk. Okay, so if we buy that call and we buy one call at $2.49, we know that we only have to spend $249 per contract. So we can get in this trade for as little as $250 or less. And that's the most we can lose no matter what. If we were to buy the stock, you have to put up so much money. That's the beauty of the option piece of this, which is a misunderstanding in the marketplace. It's very easy to do. It's as easy to trade these options as it is to trade a stock. A lot of people are now trading off their phones. You put up the option montage, you click on it, and it's probably 2 clicks and you're able to buy this trade. So it's very simple, but we like the defined risk. And in AMD, we like potentially buying these calls for an upside surprise in the earnings. And you could also, if you don't want to have as much exposure as $249, you can buy a spread on this where you buy the 95 calls and sell the 200 calls where you can make $5, but you're only risking $1 to make 5. So we like the risk reward in, taking a position for $1 and having the ability to make 5. And remember, you can only lose $1 on that trade. And that's sort of how we're sitting in AMD. And that's probably how we're going to play it for our subscribers.
There's a lot to learn with options trading of knowing all the different calls and puts and the different strategies that you can use. I'm wondering though, is there also a benefit to understanding the company that you are buying that option on? Is knowing AMD's history, knowing more about the company, factor into your decision of how to play options on this company?
Sure, that's a very big part. At the Opportunistic Trader, I have three analysts that work alongside me, both fundamental and technical. We're doing deep dive research into the company. We're also watching technically how the stock's been trading, what kind of volumes. The beauty of being with me is I have deep street relationship. And what I mean by that is I talk to every firm on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, et cetera, et cetera. And we're getting their research, their information. We're getting orders that are trading in the market. So really, by having the ability to talk with us and be subscribers to us, you're really subscribing to deep research on the street. So, to answer the question, yes, we do both technical and fundamental research. We also talk to every firm and have a deep understanding of what's making these stocks move.
Yeah, let's talk just a little bit more about AMD. What have you seen this company do during earnings season? And could this quarter be a little different simply because of how much of a move it's had from just 3 months ago when it was down quite a bit? It had just maybe started some recovery. It's a very different story today than it was last quarter.
That is true. That's been the case with all of these earnings. We're coming up on one of the biggest rallies in the history of the NASDAQ. Since the lows made in April till today, the NASDAQ is up 44%. And many of these stocks, Palantir was $70. It's more than doubled. Same thing in AMD, same thing in everything. So again, like I talked a little bit in Palantir, and the same thing goes in AMD. It's really not looking at what these particular earnings are per se on the surface. It's more diving under the hood to what is going to happen in the future. And that's one of the most important things on Wall Street, too. I don't know, I'm sure a lot of your viewers have heard the saying, buy the rumor, sell the news. And it's the same thing here. The news is kind of out. Obviously, these companies are doing very, very well. It's going forward after having such a move, how to manage that. Are you going to be okay if they have blowout earnings and the stock doesn't react well? So that's what we do here. We kind of assess that, and we put positions on that make sense for our subscribers to make money. Listen, on a lot of these stocks, money has been already made, so you have to be careful. We do think at AMD there could be upside here. Depending on how the market is trading, will determine on how much that will be going forward.
A really good dive into AMD and Palantir today. And you shared some of your history, but I want to dive into that a little bit more. You have so much experience on Wall Street and specifically in these option strategies. Talk a little bit more about what your mentorship program looks like.
When I started on Wall Street, I kind of knocked around. I started on the floor of the Chicago Board Options Exchange in 1984. I know I don't look that old, but I'm pretty old. Um, but I started on the floor. People were making money all around me, and I just couldn't make money consistently. I made money, then I lost it. I was looking for, the next great idea. And then all of a sudden, about 5 years in, now out there, the beauty of the program is you don't have to wait 5 years to find the person because I believe I'm that person. I found a gentleman who really took me under his wing and showed me the most important thing in the market, which is discipline, not trying to win on every single trade. And the beauty of being disciplined and being a good risk manager is you don't even have to win 50% of the time to be profitable. So if we're doing okay, we should be good because of the risk management. But I hooked on to him and he taught me the discipline in the market and really how to make money as I have over the last almost 40 years.
Definitely a good story about the importance of a good mentor. Again, if you want to look into Larry's mentorship program, we have a QR code you can scan here to get to that link, or we also have a link for you right in the description of this video to learn more about being one of Larry's mentees and learning more about his program. Larry, thank you so much for your time today and for digging into both of these companies and sharing some really interesting strategies for our viewers to consider. Appreciate your time today, Larry.
Oh, Bridget, thank you so much for having me, and I hope to see everybody at the opportunistic trader.
Thank you for joining us today. I know we don't talk about options a lot on this channel, so let me know what you thought about this conversation and the information in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Do you like any of the strategies that Larry shared? Do you want to hear more about options in the future? Please let us know what you think in the comments. And a final editing note, this is our final Market Beat in the Mountains edition. We will be back in the regular studio tomorrow for Market Beat Monday's live stream right at market close. I hope you can join us on Monday too. Thanks again for watching, everyone. And as always, happy investing.